This is Gary with Optimal Cruising, and this is your Cruise News Today. We're going to talk about the infamous Carnival overhaul of their loyalty program that has everybody up in arms. But you're going to want to watch this because we've got an insight for you that might change everything. We're going to talk about a cruise ship that had passengers stranded with no bathrooms for over 10 hours. We're going to talk about an unfortunate couple that had liquid garbage seeping into their cabin, getting on their bed. They woke up to this smell and had all their clothes covered in this stuff. Disgusting. And then finally, on a more somber note, we're going to talk about the old man that accosted a young teen on a cruise ship and what's being done about that to make sure cruising stays safe. Let's get started. So first up, we have a Carnival cruise ship sailing off the coast of Australia, where a teenage girl, 14 years old, reported that a 71-year-old man touched her inappropriately somewhere near an elevator on the ship. Luckily, the girl was not harmed, more shocked and scared than anything else. She alerted somebody right away, and the staff got in touch with authorities in Australia, and this man was actually arrested at the next port of call. One Carnival crew member commented that we are trained for fast intervention, and we're proud of how quickly this situation was handled by our staff. Now, this man was arrested in Brisbane, Australia. That was the next stop for the ship. So as soon as they docked, the police came on, took this man away in handcuffs, and they're trying to hold him without bail pending several charges related to this assault. The girl was shaken, but seems to be okay. And hopefully this won't be something that scars her for a long time. But the bigger picture is, what are cruise ships doing to keep you safe? Well, 90% of cruise ships give their staff intervention safety training every 30 days. So they are on top of things to look out for and prepared to respond, as they did in this case, and probably stop this situation from escalating and getting any worse. Next up, we have the Celebrity Solstice, which was sailing in Alaska earlier this month, when for some unknown reason, all of their stateroom bathrooms stopped working. People had no access, the bathrooms wouldn't flush, they wouldn't work, smells started to build up, and this lasted for over 10 hours while the ship was doing one of their cruises around glaciers and in that area getting to a port. They didn't have a port scheduled, so there really was no relief. Eventually, I guess the problem got resolved. There hasn't been a lot of information on it, but it's just something to keep in mind. Things sometimes go wrong and you have to wait for them to get repaired. We had one person comment that they kept calling to guest services to ask what's going on, and their only answer was, we don't know, we don't have an ETA for you. So they just kind of had to wait. Next up, we recently had a ship branded and operated by TUI, which is a travel company, but part owned by Royal Caribbean, on a 3-week cruise. And a couple woke up in the middle of the night due to liquid garbage from the kitchen seeping in overhead into their room, basically falling down on them while they slept. Their rooms were covered in this garbage, their clothes were ruined. They were immediately moved to another room, and they were offered 1 week's compensation for their cruise. Do you think that's enough? I mean, maybe they should have had the whole thing refunded. So they got 1 week's compensation. They were offered to have their clothes laundered, and they said they were ruined. That didn't help. They couldn't be clean. So then they were offered an additional compensation of $450 to cover their clothes. Do you think that was enough? Or maybe should have they been offered a little bit more for such a disgusting experience? And now the big story, Carnival's revamp of their loyalty program. Now this has been all over the internet. Lots of people are up in arms because what they are doing is changing the lifetime status that people were able to earn with their program and making it so you have to spend a certain amount of money, and it's based on a 2-year rolling count. So within a 2-year period, if you don't keep that spending up, you lose your status. Whereas now, and the way most cruise loyalty programs work, is that your status is earned by the number of nights that you cruise, and once you get a certain status level, you never lose it. You could skip cruising for 5 years and go back and still be at that status level. Well, that's not going to be the case the way this new program is laid out at Carnival. Will this program actually be implemented by Carnival? Well, stick around because we got some interesting news that suggests it may not. But let's just go over the program so everybody really understands it. So I think pretty much we get the way the old system worked. The way the new system will work is you earn points for every dollar you spend on your cruise fare, on board the ship, in the casino, and those points add up to several tiers. Once you have achieved a point level, you're locked in at that tier. But any spending that would have occurred prior to 2 years ago starts falling off. Points don't always go up. They go up and then you lose some points. So it's a totally different kind of system. But if you're a big spender or a big casino player, you're going to be staying in at that high tier. It doesn't even matter if you cruise a whole lot of nights, because if you spend a lot of money, if you make those payments to the ships, to their casino, then you're going to be getting in at those higher levels. Now, you should understand that there's 2 grandfathers that they're doing here with this new program. One is for the platinum members. The platinum members and below are going to be grandfathered in for 2 years, which means basically your status will be locked in for the first 2 years, no matter what you spend. And at that point, so they're giving you 2 years to kind of build up your spending to get back to that level. If you're at a diamond level now, they're gonna grandfather you in for 6 years. Now that's not too bad. You're gonna be locked in at 6 years at that level, and by the end of that 6th year, you would have had to have spent enough money in the prior 2 years to maintain that status. Now here's the most interesting part. After all the uproar on the internet about this proposed change, John Hill, the brand ambassador for Carnival, actually posted his own YouTube video saying, oh, well, we just threw this out there to see how people reacted. We're weighing the response. What does that mean? Well, maybe they're not going to go through with this. I don't know. Maybe they're going to try it and see what happens. But there seems to be some reaction, or maybe some indication of a pullback, because you guys have commented. So it does help. All the comments, all the feedback does help these cruise lines try to figure out and hone their programs to what's going to be best for their customers. Now that you're up to date on your cruise news, make sure you watch this next video so you know all the tips and tricks about cruising.